To anyone who's played it, it's abundantly clear that Super Mario Galaxy is a very special game. Rarely does a game come along where you can feel the passion of the people who made it in quite the same way you can in Super Mario Galaxy. It is for good reason that the game occupies a not insignificant pocket of nostalgia in the hearts of those who grew up playing Nintendo games in the DS and Wii era, and also for good reason that the game remains one of the highest rated of all time. Released in 2007, Super Mario Galaxy was the first Mario title on Nintendo's new Wii console. Aside from being the newest Mario game, and the first Mario game on the Wii, Galaxy stood out, featuring a unique gravity system which made it a platformer unlike any other at the time. Continuing where its predecessor, Super Mario Sunshine, left off, Galaxy places Mario inside of a mostly self-serious narrative with somewhat of an actual plot, featuring new characters, new creatures, and new locations for them all to inhabit. The game also features a variety of new power-ups for Mario, usually fitting the theme of whatever location Mario is in. Tying all of this together is an incredibly unique atmosphere, which I personally see as a core reason this game rose above simply being a great 3D platformer to being considered one of the best games ever made. Super Mario Galaxy has this tender quality about it. From the soft music of the observatory to the way the light shimmers off of every object, the game welcomes you in, reminding you that while space can be dark and mysterious and even scary, that's okay. This theme is reinforced by Mario's guide through the stars, Rosalina, and through some expert indirect or environmental storytelling throughout the levels of the game. Galaxy precariously juggles a slew of different moods and themes, careful to keep things lighthearted enough that it maintains the core essence of a Mario game along with that classic Nintendo charm, yet serious enough for it to feel utterly unique at the same time. On paper, the world of Mario Galaxy shouldn't really work. Mario, who traditionally exists in the whimsical land of the Mushroom Kingdom, with maybe a vacation or two to a tropical island thrown in, is now in deep, dark space, where he traverses anything from cold, rocky planetoids to literal floating recreations of an 8-bit version of himself to collect enough stars to power a spaceship to travel to the center of the universe to save Princess Peach from Bowser, of course. Yet somehow, out of all of that, Nintendo managed to craft a game that feels incredibly grounded. Of course, Galaxy here is really improving on what Sunshine first attempted. I know there are people who feel just as strongly about Sunshine as I do for Galaxy. A large part of Galaxy's atmosphere comes from its incredibly unique art style. Luminous, yet dark and brooding, the world of Mario Galaxy has a timeless quality. Even playing on original hardware, which couldn't display over 480p, nothing looks bad or outdated. You could even argue it adds to the soft, grainy aura of the game. Light in this game feels like it has a texture, like dust particles drifting through the void. It's hard to say how exactly this effect was achieved. As I said before, objects have this shimmering quality in their highlights. They have a slight roughness to them, velvety almost, and very few reflective materials, reserving reflections nearly solely for glass and metal. Part of this comes down to simple textures and intentionally avoiding realism. Galaxy released at a time when games were pushing for realism in a way that has, looking back, made them feel far more dated than their more simple contemporaries. Aside from pure resolution, Galaxy looks just as good today as it did in 2007, demonstrated perfectly in the 1080p port seen in Mario 3D All-Stars. The artists opted for a very stylized approach, with even natural materials like stone, dirt, and grass being represented by very simple, flat textures. A secondary addition to this sort of textured light effect is the abundance of particle effects, both ambient and attached to nearly every action in the game. Dust particles hang in the air, and starbits dance around, sparkling. The visual atmosphere of Mario Galaxy would be nothing were it not for the complementary auditory experience. Super Mario Galaxy was the first game in the Mario series to have an orchestrated score, and this is felt immediately upon booting the game with a grand swell as the game's logo flashes onto the title screen. Despite this newfound musical power, the game's composers, Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo, exercised restraint, opting for a surprising number of quiet pieces with more contrast to the more bombastic themes. Some pieces incorporate some of the classic Mario whimsy, while others sound totally foreign to the Mario franchise, ambient, dark, and ominous. Whee! I'll talk about music more when I cover the Galaxies later on. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to sound design, but personally, I find the sound design of Mario Galaxy is incredibly consistent. The soundscapes of each galaxy perfectly match the tone of both the music and visuals. Aside from a few power-ups, nothing sounds out of place or gamey in the way it does in a game like Mario 64. Although this is definitely thanks in part to a huge increase in sound quality since the N64 days. Sound design, along with some incredible animation, especially helps the new characters and creatures of Galaxy really feel like they fit their environment, like the whirring of the Toy Time bots or the cheery cheeps and squeals from the Lumas around the observatory. My favorite soundscape is found in the observatory's kitchen dome with its crackling fireplace. Perhaps it's a little concerning for the movement mechanics of a Mario game to not be the first thing that's mentioned when discussing it. However, between the absolute genius that is the atmosphere and art direction, and the rather limited set of movement options available to the player, that's simply what Galaxy's movement mechanics warrant. They're fine, they're passable, and if this were any other Mario game, I would go as far as to say they're a little lackluster. However, being Mario Galaxy, it kind of doesn't matter, and it's not just because everything else in the game is so good. So what's different from previous and subsequent 3D Mario entries? At first glance, there's not actually much missing, although what is missing has a huge impact on the overall feel of the game. A key action missing from Sunshine, not counting Flood, and 64's movement is the forward dive. It may not seem like much, but in addition to the overall faster pace of those games, the dive mechanic was key to making the movement in 64 and Sunshine feel so fluid and expressive, as it really allowed you to chain actions together and maintain your momentum for long periods of time. It made it so a skilled player could traverse the game far more efficiently than someone who was just picking it up for the first time. In Super Mario Galaxy, the most efficient way to traverse most maps is to, well, run forward, with maybe a long jump thrown in here and there. Due to a frequent lack of open space to string them together, coupled with a severe lack of side-to-side air control, and the fact that your momentum is basically completely reset when you land, long jumping is ultimately not a comparable method of traversal. At best, long jumping is used to cross big gaps on more linear stages, surprisingly often in places the developers didn't seem to have intended. The movement system overall leads to Mario Galaxy feeling less similar to 64, Sunshine, and Odyssey, while feeling far more similar to something like Super Mario 3D World, obviously ignoring catsuit dive chaining and other speedrun techniques. However, because of the complementary level design changes, Galaxy's movement isn't necessarily worse, it's just different. With one action gone, a new action was added, the spin. The spin functions both as Mario's primary attack, as well as a mid-air correction method. Personally, I find the spin much more satisfying than Flood's hovering in Sunshine. Since it's also an attack, it's snappier, meaning you don't have to just sit there hovering for a few seconds. As a result of this increased snappiness, timing it properly adds a small amount of much-needed skill to the mid-air correction ability it offers. With that said though, the spin is definitely not perfect, especially since it's activated by shaking the Wiimote, which takes all that snappiness I was just talking about and muddies it just enough to be incredibly infuriating if things happen to line up in just the wrong way. Now on to some more troubling mechanics. Let's just get this out of the way immediately. The camera in this game is some hot garbage. For the first half of my recent playthrough, I completely forgot that you could even rotate the camera. As pleasantly surprised as I was to find out that the feature existed, I also became increasingly frustrated as the automated camera movements baked into the stages came into conflict with where I wanted the camera. Someone at Nintendo also had the bright idea of giving the camera collision, and I don't just mean that it won't go through walls, I mean it will literally start tilting as it tries to climb up the side of some slanted terrain, making the game obviously much harder to play. In addition to this, the movement controls were programmed to explicitly react to the movement of the camera to keep you going in the right direction. Since the game expects you to keep holding the same direction on the joystick while it does the correction for you according to the camera movement, there inevitably become moments where you overcorrect for camera movement and end up walking off a cliff or around the edge of a platform you didn't mean to. The smaller the platform you're on, the worse this problem seems to get. Fortunately, these elements aren't overused, so this type of problem doesn't actually happen so frequently that it ruins the overall experience.
Dear Mario, I'll be waiting for you at the castle on the night of the Star Festival. There's something I'd like to give you. From Peach.
The atmosphere, mechanics, visual, and auditory design of Super Mario Galaxy are cohesively tied together by the sense of progression provided by the game's plot taking you around the universe to various galaxies, which serve as the main areas you'll be traversing through in order to complete the game. The game begins with Mario arriving at Toad Town, surrounding Peach's castle, where they are celebrating the Star Festival, a centennial event wherein a comet passes over the Mushroom Kingdom, raining down star bits and generally looking very pretty. Princess Peach is standing on her balcony holding a Luma, a sort of living star species you'll learn more about as you play through the game. In a completely unshocking turn of events, Bowser attacks, destroying the town and digging up Peach's castle to be dragged into space by his new flying saucer. It's definitely the most cinematic intro we've ever had in a Mario game. Mario is on the castle bridge, ready to save Peach, when Kamek attacks, sending Mario flying into space, with Princess Peach's Luma racing to save him. Mario is awakened by the Luma on a small planet in the Gateway Galaxy. The Luma transforms into a bunny and brings him over to find two others in the same form. They ask to play hide and seek, and you have to find and catch all three bunnies in order to progress. The area serves as a sandbox for the player to explore the mechanics and get to grips with the new gravity system. There's no time limit, and the music here is unexpectedly soft and light, like a lullaby, but with a hint of mystery, setting the overall tone of the game. Upon catching all three bunnies, a building appears at the top of the planet, with Rosalina awaiting you at its peak. She explains that she watches over the cosmos and grants you the spin ability through the power of the Luma who's been protecting you. This Luma becomes your companion for the rest of the game. Rosalina assigns you with saving a grand star, which has been captured and its energy used for evil purposes. From here, you break a crystal containing a launch star and blast off to the rest of the Gateway Galaxy. The next few planets introduce the player to some core mechanics of the game. Bottomless pits, finding launch star pieces, using the spin attack on enemies, opening doors with keys, and activating switches by stepping on all the floor pads. By turning off all the pads, you free the Grand Star, the only time in the game you do so without a boss battle. The Grand Star flies you back to Rosalina's Comet Observatory, where it powers up the next set of missions. Rosalina reveals that the observatory is her starship, and that she travels the cosmos with her Lumas, returning to Earth every 100 years. Evidently, the observatory is the comet the Mushroom Kingdom sees. This time though, she says, she was attacked by Bowser, and the Comet Observatory was taken out of commission. She instructs Mario to travel the galaxies and collect power stars to reboot the observatory's full capabilities. There are a series of domes spread throughout the observatory, which are the access points to the individual levels. Essentially, they are the worlds of a traditional Mario game. The Terrace is the first dome to be opened, and subsequent domes are opened by obtaining Grand Stars from each Bowser stage. Obviously, I can't go through and fully explain every single mission in the game, but from here I'll be going through and giving my thoughts on each galaxy as a whole. The game features 42 galaxies, the first of which is Good Egg Galaxy. Good Egg Galaxy is the one everyone remembers. Its music is loud and adventurous, and it really goes all out with the planetoid-oriented game design that Galaxy is known for. Since it's the first Galaxy, it's designed with a lot of hidden tutorials, like the elastic plants teaching you how to defeat the first boss, Dino Piranha. Nintendo are genius level designers, most of the time, so this hidden tutorialization is present throughout the entire game, just maybe not to the same extent. overall, especially on the first mission, it basically feels like an expanded version of the Gateway Galaxies Grand Star Rescue.
Yes!
Honey Hive Galaxy introduces us to the first new power-up of the game, the Bee Suit. This allows Mario to fly for a short amount at a time, climb on honeycomb, and stand on flowers and clouds. Honey Hive also showcases a second type out of the 4 distinct types of level design present in Galaxy, which I'll refer to as open. These levels are more exploration-based, erring more on the side of the playground-style stages of 64 and Sunshine, but still maintaining the more linear aspects of Galaxy. Those in the first style are more like Good Egg Galaxy, which I'll call planet hopping. The third style are pure linear platforming challenges, which we'll get to soon. And the fourth are motion control stages. In reality, it's more of a spectrum from open to linear challenges, and the motion control stages are more their own thing. Anyway, back to Honey Hive. The music is a playful 12-bar blues bop, and a sharp contrast to the grand orchestral themes of Good Egg. The Queen Bee and her Bee Kingdom are a cute addition, and somehow manage to feel like they totally fit into this deep space environment. In one of the missions, you meet Captain Toad for the first time in a Mario game. It's clear he was a popular addition to the Mario franchise. Loop-de-Loop Galaxy is our introduction to motion control stages. In this Galaxy's only mission, you ride a manta ray around a water track by tilting the Wiimote, and are rewarded with a star if you complete the loop. The controls are just as bad as you'd expect, but if you go slowly for sharp corners, it's easily doable on your first try. This stage also introduces the beach music, which I find cute at first, but it quickly becomes overused.
Yes!
Flip Switch Galaxy is a short, single-star, single-planet challenge where you step on every button to get a star. I think they went a little too easy on these first few challenge levels. This stage starts a somewhat annoying trend of reusing classic Mario music, specifically the Mario Bros. Underground theme, which Nintendo has always seemed absolutely insistent on reusing to death. It's especially annoying since there's already music in this game that would fit basically any situation perfectly. Bowser Jr.'s Robot Reactor is the first Bowser stage of the game, consisting of 2 planets and a pretty interesting and unique boss fight where you walk up the legs of Bowser Jr.'s robot and break some glass by leading Bullet Bills around some obstacles. I think the execution was pretty good here, and I like that Bowser Jr.'s stages have music separate to that of the full Bowser stages. Outside of the terrace dome sits the observatory's first Hungry Luma, who unlocks a new stage when you feed it enough star bits. Sweet Sweet Galaxy is the first Hungry Luma stage, and is a pretty straightforward 1-star platforming challenge with moving platforms and bottomless pits. Like I said before, far too easy on these first few challenge stages. It reuses the athletic theme from Mario Bros. 3.
Yes!
Space Junk Galaxy is the first stage in the Fountain, the next dome to open after completing the Terrace's Bowser stage and rescuing the Grand Star. As is evident from the name, Space Junk is probably the closest to what most people would think of if they heard Mario in space. There's bits of debris floating around everywhere, and even a cartoony spaceship that you get to run around on. It also introduces a cool feature that's not really used much elsewhere in the game, where platforms fly into place just before you step on them. The main music here is a beautiful piano piece that fits the deep space theme perfectly, though it disappointingly falls back to reusing classic Mario music in many sections. Just to be clear, I don't explicitly have a problem with reusing old music, it's just that Nintendo reuses old music a lot, and it's usually not because it's particularly effective or fitting, at least not more than an original piece could be. It's to sell people nostalgia. Battle Rock Galaxy is kind of all over the place in terms of content, with missions made up of planet hopping, linear platform challenges, bullet bill and bomb throwing challenges, pole star obstacle courses, and more. The Battle Rock itself, the defining feature of this galaxy, gives a nice sense of world building, as if there's some federation or company out there with resources and goals, and Mario has just happened upon their facility. The music here is orchestral, action-adventure style, sounding a bit Star Wars-y at times. The galaxy's secret mission features a trash-exploiting minigame that's randomly a huge spike in difficulty, even if you know the correct way to do it. Rolling Green Galaxy is a second type of motion control stage where, in the galaxy's only star, Mario stands on top of a ball and you guide him through an obstacle course to a goal by tilting an upright Wiimote. The music is playful and responds to the speed at which you're moving. Personally, I find this mode just controllable enough to be fun once you get the hang of it. However, I know for certain there are many people for whom this is the last thing they want in a Mario game. It's definitely good that Nintendo didn't overuse it.
Yes!
Hurry Scurry Galaxy is a one-star stage featuring the Shrinking Tiles, an obstacle that previously only appeared extremely briefly in Good Egg Galaxy. The main challenge is to run around a tiny planet consisting of only these tiles and collecting all the musical notes. This time it's quite easy, giving you a taste of a much harder version that will make a return later on. The stage reuses the Mario Bros. Underground theme once again. Bowser's Star Reactor is the Fountain's Bowser stage, and the first Bowser stage where you actually fight Bowser as the boss. Aside from the boss fight, it's a completely linear platforming challenge straight out of the Mario 64 Bowser stages, and it even uses the same music. I'd say it's even more linear since there are no red coins to collect. The stage, of course, has Mario Galaxy's signature twist of weird gravity shenanigans. Sling Pod Galaxy is the Fountain's Hungry Luma stage, consisting almost entirely of sling pods, hence the name, which were introduced in the third mission of Space Junk Galaxy. For these, you point at the screen with the Wiimote and click and drag to fling Mario in the opposite direction upon release. The music in the stage is an inquisitive synth-strings combo, which I'm certain appeared in a mission prior to this, though I don't remember exactly which one. I'll refer to it as the mystery theme since it gets reused a lot, which is okay because I like it. It nicely captures the essence of floating through space. Overall, I think the sling pods are pretty fun, though like other motion control gimmicks, they're wisely not overused.
Yes!
Beach Bowl Galaxy is the first stage in the kitchen, the next dome to open after the fountain. Beach Bowl introduces the player to swimming, so it makes sense that at least the first part of each of its missions consists of sending you underwater to collect specific objects. Swimming in this game is surprisingly good, especially compared to something like Mario 64 or Odyssey, and is even further enhanced by both spinning to go faster and picking up Koopa shells, which increase your speed even further and make you move forward automatically. The one problem with this great swimming system is that the camera is locked behind Mario at all times while you're moving, and refuses to change directions when you're not moving, meaning that if there's something right beneath you that you're trying to get to and you accidentally go past it, it'll probably be easier to just swim far away and then come at it from another angle than it would be to try and finagle yourself around without even being able to see your objective half the time, and wrestling with the inverted controls of swimming toward the camera on top of that. Beach Bowl reuses the beach-themed music from Loop-de-Loop Galaxy, though between it being heard for far longer here and the fact that it's literally, a beach, I think it's fitting and perfectly fine. I should also mention that in this and every other stage, going underwater changes the music to a watery version, which I think is really cool since most games simply slap a filter on all the audio to make it sound muted and far off.
Yes!
Ghostly Galaxy is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a big spooky mansion floating in space, and there are boos everywhere, and it introduces a new power-up that turns Mario into a boo, letting him pass through walls after shaking the Wiimote, which is a little too finicky for my liking. Bouldergeist, the boss featured in the third mission, is one of my favorite boss fights in the game. Ghostly Galaxy also gets bonus points for spooky original music. Bubble Breeze Galaxy is a motion control stage where Mario gets in a bubble and you use the pointer to blow it around an obstacle course. Like I said for Rolling Green, I tend to find these single-star gimmick stages kind of fun, aside from the ray surfing, as they offer unique modes every so often to act momentarily as alternatives to the core gameplay, though I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority. This bubble gimmick is definitely the best motion control mode, in my opinion. Bubble Breeze reuses the mystery theme again, and I have no problem with that because I like it.
Yes!
Buoy Base Galaxy is a single-star climb the tower platforming gauntlet, where you first have to unlock access to the tower by guiding a subaquatic bullet bill to free an anchor. Trying to guide this bullet bill was probably the most frustrated I got with the camera in the entire game. Weirdly, this galaxy features unique original music, by which I mean it only appears in this stage. I'm a little confused why they chose to make an original piece for a galaxy with only one mission, okay, 2 if you count the secret star, especially since it sounds so good. Buoy Base's secret star is the game's first green star. Collecting all 4 green stars unlocks a launch star in the observatory that sends you to the Planet of Trials, from which you can access 3 tougher versions of previous motion control gimmick stages.
Yes!
Bowser Jr.'s Airship Armada is the kitchen's Bowser stage. You cannon from ship to ship and ride some moving platforms until you get to Bowser Jr.'s ship, which you defeat by hitting it with Koopa shells. It's a pretty underwhelming boss fight in my opinion. The stage reuses the classic Mario airship music, which is disappointing as, again, there's literally tons of original music already in the game which would make the stage feel more interesting, if only at face value. Strangely, I remembered this stage very fondly from when I was little, but upon replaying it, I'm a little confused why. Drip Drop Galaxy is the kitchen's Hungry Luma stage, consisting of a single planet where you swim around and kill some eels with Koopa shells, and then the old penguin, who I just learned is officially named Penguru, which is amazing, gives you a star in reward. There's also water bullet bills here because I guess they needed to raise the tension a little. This is the first galaxy in the game where, upon beating it, I was like, wait, that's it? It's the first galaxy that really feels like complete padding, and that I had absolutely no recollection of from playing the game when I was little. Even weirder is that the galaxy features original music, which, as far as I can tell, only briefly appears in one other Hungry Luma stage. Gusty Garden Galaxy is the first stage of the next dome, the bedroom, which to me seems to have the highest number of really solid levels out of all of the domes. This galaxy, partly thanks to the music and partly thanks to its utterly unique setting, is up there with Good Egg and Honey Hive in the list of galaxies that everyone and their dog remembers. It's even more impressive considering those other two are literally the first two levels in the game, whereas Gusty Garden is about halfway through. Gusty Garden has a unique gimmick of starting every mission with you grabbing onto a flower and flying through the wind between the first few planets. This is the first galaxy where the developers really started to go crazy with the gravity fields, crafting all sorts of weirdly shaped planets for the player to traverse. We've got beans, we've got discs, we've got giant cubes, we've got a bunch of spheres stuck together, we've got literal giant question marks, a donut that apparently you can get to, but I still can't figure out how, giant apples with a worm stretching between them, etc. On top of all of that, the music really is just a masterpiece of video game composing. It's annoyingly catchy, easy to hum along to, and so perfectly fits the level it was made for that they're completely inseparable. You know it's good when Nintendo start reusing it in their other games. This galaxy would really only feel marginally more interesting than any other galaxy were it not for the music. I'm really glad that this track wasn't reused elsewhere in the game, as it would have seriously undercut its impact by overdoing it.
Yes!
Freeze Flame Galaxy is my personal favorite galaxy. The hot-cold dynamic is both mechanically and visually satisfying, introducing ice skating, activated by spinning when running forward on ice, as well as the Ice Flower, which allows Mario to walk on water to enter otherwise inaccessible areas. The Ice Flower is the first timed power-up, meaning there's sometimes a little bit of strategy as to when you want to pick up the item, or how precise your pathfinding has to be to get somewhere in time. I also find that Freeze Flame happens to have a very diverse set of missions, where each one feels totally different while still maintaining the theme of the galaxy. It's extremely satisfying that one of the missions, actually two if you count the purple coin mission, actually lets you climb to the top of the mountain. Freeze Flame has original music perfectly fitting the icy theme, and the piece even has an alternate arrangement for the lava sections to better fit the hot environment. In later missions, Freeze Flame also introduces, I think, it may have appeared earlier, the Fire Flower, returning from other Mario games but with a time limit now, like the Ice Flower. I'll let you guess what it does. Dusty Dune Galaxy is the obligatory Mario desert level, but at least it's kinda cool this time. There are small twisters that shoot Mario helicopter spinning into the air when you spin, allowing you to float a short distance. There's a good variety in the missions, utilizing the theme of sand in as many ways as possible without it getting old. The music is original with a very rhythmic, deserty sound, with the lead played on a sitar. Overall, Dusty Dune is just enough desert level for me, and I'm glad it was the only one in the game. Honey Climb Galaxy is a short, one-star honeycomb climbing challenge using the bee suit. Personally, I find it way too easy, as it seems like the devs kind of just forgot how far you could actually fly in the bee suit, meaning many of the obstacles and moving platforms are easily skippable. It's the second stage to reuse the Mario Bros. 3 athletic theme.
Yes!
Bowser's Dark Matter plant is definitely the best Bowser stage aside from the finale. The dark matter itself is visually interesting, and the Tetris piece platforms combined with shifting gravity make it one of the more engaging linear platform sections in the game, even if it is a little on the easy side. The music is the same as the last full Bowser stage, and the boss fight at the end is nearly identical as well.
Yes!
Big Mouth Galaxy is the Bedroom's Hungry Luma stage, consisting of a single mission where you go get a gold Koopa shell from an underwater cave and then bring it back to where you started to open a gold chest, freeing Captain Toad, who gives you a star. That's right, Captain Toad canonically almost died. This is another stage where I was left extremely confused after beating it, since the core gameplay, which consists of collecting launch star pieces to get to a higher upside down section of water where the golden shell is, can be skipped entirely by just wall jumping up to the higher section. I literally got to the shell, went, I wonder what those star pieces were for then, so I went and collected them all only to find that it took me right back to the shell. I guess the devs just kind of forgot how high a wall jump is. This galaxy uses dark and brooding music that you probably remember from a later stage, Deep Dark Galaxy.
Yes!
Gold Leaf Galaxy is the first stage of the Engine Room Dome. You're probably thinking that I'm gonna complain because Gold Leaf Galaxy is literally just a mirrored reskin of Honey Hive Galaxy, but somehow I don't actually mind that much. Between the mirroring, which places much more emphasis on the giant tree in the level, a swapped color palette, and overall drastically different missions compared to Honey Hive, make it feel different enough that you kind of just forget after a while. It's unfortunate then that it uses the same music as Honey Hive, but it fits pretty well, so it's not that big of a deal. The autumn theme makes it likable enough that the glaring obviousness of a reused level isn't much of a problem. Sea Slide Galaxy is Beach Bowl Galaxy, but cooler. There's a ring of water around a central conical planet. Disappointingly, in similar fashion to Beach Bowl, the devs seem to have had trouble coming up with things for you to actually do there. The most interesting mission is collecting silver stars, as you get to actually traverse all the different locations. Everything else is kind of just, I don't know, you swim around the ring, I guess. The beach music is, of course, reused here, and at this point it's getting a little bit tiring just because of how cheery and in-your-face the arrangement is. This galaxy also features a secret star mission with a much harder version of the Hurry Scurry Galaxy Shrinking Tile Challenge. This one is properly difficult and will probably take you multiple tries to complete. Finally beating it is satisfying in the same way that solving a puzzle is. Toy Time Galaxy feels straight out of like a special zone or bonus world from like Mario 3D World or some Sonic game. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the game. The art team really tried their best to make it work by darkening the background and putting star bits and floating debris everywhere, but it still kind of feels like they just had this idea that they couldn't really fit in, so they just said fuck it and did it anyway. It also uses this upbeat remix of the classic Mario Bros. Theme, making it feel even more like a sort of bonus stage, even though it's not even in the last dome. Toy Time introduces the Spring power-up, my least favorite of the game, and I don't think I'm alone on that. It's annoying, unpredictable, cumbersome, and feels overused despite the fact it only appears 1 or 2 times outside of Toy Time. The spring suit, coupled with some laser shooting robot enemies, make it extremely easy to get hit, which causes you to lose the suit, leading to backtracking, and feel like there was literally nothing you could do about it. A lot of its issues could have been fixed by simply giving the player more air control, as it's basically only possible to change directions while in contact with the ground. Toy Time Galaxy is also one of the only times in the game where I feel Nintendo went too far with the gravity mechanic. There was at least one time where I got stuck in a corner between 2 gravity fields and died to one of the laser robots because I just couldn't move. I think they overestimated the precision of their system, pushed it too far, and it started falling apart a bit. In Bonefin Galaxy, you kill a giant skeletal shark with Koopa shells. It's like Drip Drop Galaxy, but with a shark this time. It even uses the same music prior to the shark appearing. Like other one-star galaxies, I'm not sure why they chose to write original music that was only going to be used one time, though it's an absolute jam once you pick up a Koopa shell. Bowser Jr.'s Lava Reactor is the final Bowser stage before the finale, and is simply a rematch against King Caliente. The sinking platforms make it a little more challenging this time. Sand Spiral Galaxy is the Engine Room's Hungry Luma stage, consisting of a quick gauntlet where you can either choose B or Boo Mario, and then, as the name suggests, a giant spiral you run around with an invincibility star. The invincibility star works basically the same way in Galaxy as it does in any other Mario game. For a limited amount of time, it increases your speed, quite a bit in this game, and kills any enemies you come into contact with. The challenge here is to navigate the spiral with your increased speed. It's pretty hard, but if you die, the spiral starts in a different spot, making it a little easier to reach the center. I would place this challenge more on the side of annoying rather than fun. At some point during the game, Rosalina informs you that if you collect enough Grand Stars, and then some extra Power Stars, you'll be able to fly the observatory to the center of the universe to beat the final level and save Princess Peach. I'm going to come back to the final stage after covering all the other stages so I can talk about the ending of the game more toward the end of the video. The game doesn't require you to play this stage right away. You can play as many other levels as you'd like beforehand, though there are a few missions, specifically the purple comets, that won't be unlocked until you beat the game. Between the engine room and the final dome, the garden, there's a little pit stop at the Gateway, a newly accessible entrance to the same galaxy from the game's intro. This time, you're limited to just the starting planet, and are tasked with collecting 100 purple coins using the red star, a timed power-up that allows Mario to fly around after spinning in the air. I've heard that this power-up was supposed to be featured a lot more in the game, but was cut for various reasons. As cool as it sounds, I'm honestly glad it was cut, as the controls are super cumbersome and the camera runs into the same issues as it does when you're swimming. Plus, it would just completely break most levels in the game. After completing this mission, the red star is unlocked in the observatory. It's fun to play around with for a bit, but gets old pretty quickly. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not totally sure whether you have to beat the game for this stage to be unlocked or not. If not, it's the only purple coin mission you can play before doing so. The Gateway also gets its own Hungry Luma stage, Boo's Boneyard Galaxy. This is a 1-star rematch against the Spooky Speedster, returning from one of the missions in Ghostly Galaxy. This time, it's a 2D stage instead of 3D, and you play as Boo Mario instead of using pole stars. I find the passing through walls mechanic to be incredibly inconsistent thanks to its activation by shaking the Wiimote. This level really makes it clear that Boo Mario was intended for slow, open areas, and not this fast-paced, linear 2D style. Deep Dark Galaxy is the first stage in the observatory's final dome, the Garden. At first glance, it appears to be another swimming-heavy stage, but luckily only one of the missions is actually like that. There's a really good sense of world building here, with the mechanical sounds in the background perfectly tying into the sinister music returning from Big Mouth Galaxy. It's really incredible how much Nintendo is able to do with so little. It's all environmental storytelling, and extremely minimal at that. I'd say the atmosphere really elevates this stage, as the individual missions are not really anything to write home about, but I still think of it as an all-around solid galaxy. Dreadnought Galaxy is the grown-up version of Battle Rock Galaxy. I imagine the Federation has left their headquarters after you destroyed it and have ventured into deep space in search of new resources to exploit. As you can see, this is another world-building heavy stage, and I love it. I mean, just look at the illusion of detail Nintendo are able to craft using mostly simple geometric shapes. To solidify this pseudo-narrative connection to Battle Rock even further, Dreadnought uses the same music as well. Also, let's just take a moment to appreciate how cool of a name Dreadnought is. Absolutely brilliant. The trash bombing minigame also makes its return here, and it's even harder than before somehow. Melty Molten Galaxy is the last fully fledged 6-star galaxy in the game. It's like Freeze Flame Galaxy, but without the freeze part. No, in all seriousness, I really like this stage, aside from these annoying ass fire rocks that float around and need to be put out by timing a spin correctly. Thanks to the inaccuracy of the spin's activation via motion controls, and the difficulty of telling when exactly the attack's cooldown has passed, it's basically inevitable that you'll take damage if you're fighting more than one of these guys at a time. This makes Melty Molten's Daredevil mission in particular way more challenging than I think it was meant to be, and a pain to complete in general. It's one of the only missions in the game that caused me to rage quit my play session for the day. The galaxy has original music, which starts out loud and bombastic, shifting into a more calculated, militaristic theme with some pointed Eastern influence. The B section, featuring a grand, adventurous theme, is some of my favorite music in the whole game. The Mario music it reminds me of the most is Bowser's Kingdom from Mario Odyssey, but with more synth parts to fit Galaxy's space setting. Melty Molten Galaxy also randomly features the rolling ball motion control gimmick from Rolling Green Galaxy in one of its missions.
Yes!
Matter Splatter Galaxy is a linear platforming challenge with an appearing, disappearing floor gimmick returning from both Bowser's Dark Matter Reactor and a secret mission in Ghostly Galaxy. I really like the way they contextualized what could have seemed like a very random pattern with these parabolically dancing bits of energy, which make a very satisfying water droplet sound when they land. Unfortunately, the spring suit makes a comeback here, although in a 2D platforming setting, it's far less obnoxious. There's also no lasers shooting at you, which helps. Matter Splatter reuses the extremely common mystery music.
Yes!
Snowcap Galaxy is the Garden's Hungry Luma stage, and the last Hungry Luma stage in the game. It's essentially a rematch of the original Bunny hide-and-seek mission from the game's intro. Something about this stage seems very melancholic to me, probably in part because it's one of the last stages I played, and I felt sad that my playthrough was coming to an end. It's quite interesting to me, actually, that aside from the bunny chasing, it's a very zen, meditative stage rather than a bright, colorful, and celebratory one. It's like the game knows you'll be sad that it's coming to an end, and is trying to help you through those emotions by reminding you how far you've come. I don't think it's unintentional that cap is literally in the name, as it's extremely structurally satisfying that what is symbolically the final stage of the game mirrors the intro so closely. This stage really displays the true artistry of the Mario Galaxy team, if you weren't convinced already. The last levels aside from the finale I haven't covered yet are accessed through the Planet of Trials, which is unlocked after finding all 4 green stars in the game. These 3 stages are all souped up versions of previous motion control stages, so you're either in for a treat or an absolute nightmare depending on how you feel about the motion control gimmicks. Rolling Gizmo Galaxy is the sequel, so to speak, to Rolling Green Galaxy, and is 100% comprised of an obstacle course for the rolling ball gimmick. Overall, it's a nice step up in challenge, although it features what I consider to be one of the most egregious pieces of poor level design in the game right at the beginning. It's possible that I missed a sign or something, but it took me a shockingly long time to figure out that you could knock over this wall just by rolling into it and jumping, and when I did figure it out, it was completely by accident. And it's not like the game was trying to teach you anything either, that's the only time in the stage where you have to do that. Rolling Gizmo also reuses the dynamic music found in Rolling Green Galaxy, as expected. Bubble Blast Galaxy is the sequel to Bubble Breeze Galaxy, this time finding Mario floating through deep space rather than a poison swamp. The first part is a cool, non-linear obstacle course that has you collecting launch star pieces, which then brings you to a linear section that's actually pretty tough, where you have to go decently fast to not get hit by bullet bills. Bubble Blast reuses the mystery music, which is just starting to get old, but it's okay because the game is basically over. Loop-de-Swoop Galaxy is the last stage on the Planet of Trials and the sequel to the Ray Surfing Loop-de-Loop Galaxy. As I said before, Ray Surfing is my least favorite of the motion control gimmicks, so this stage is no more enjoyable to me than the last one. It's not even particularly more difficult than Loop-de-Loop, it's just the same thing but a little different. Both the beach music and the Ray Surfing music are reused from Loop-de-Loop Galaxy. Finally, the last thing I'll talk about before covering the final Bowser stage and the game's subsequent ending are the Prankster Comet Missions, which appear on every full 6-star galaxy. There are 5 different types of Prankster Comet mission: speedruns, daredevil runs, cosmic Mario races, fast foes, and collecting purple coins. Out of these 5, the purple coin missions obviously had the most effort put into them, and are personally my favorite type of comet mission, though that's not to say I don't enjoy some of the other ones. Speedruns and fast foes are pretty self-explanatory. Beat the level or section of level under a certain time limit, and beat the level or section of level except the enemies move really fast. In the Cosmic Mario races, you race against a space-themed Mario doppelganger along a predefined path to get to the star before Cosmic Mario does. These are generally pretty easy since you can often skip portions of routes that Cosmic Mario is programmed to follow exactly. In the Daredevil runs, you have to complete either a full stage, part of a stage, or just a boss fight with only 1 point of health. These are generally pretty fun, but occasionally lean a little far into the annoyingly hard category, like I mentioned for Melty Molten Galaxy. As for purple coin missions, there's a couple different forms they come in. In all of them, however, you're tasked with collecting 100 purple coins. Most of them are very straightforward. With a time limit, you run along a predefined path, and if you don't miss any, you'll have exactly 100 coins by the time you reach the end, where you'll collect the star. These ones I'm pretty indifferent about. They're short, fun, tightly crafted missions. Another form, which only appears a couple of times, features a big arena with way more than 100 purple coins, where you only have to collect 100 of them in a very short amount of time. The Toy Time and Ghostly Galaxies purple coin missions are the most prominent examples of this, with the Toy Time one being particularly brutal, featuring shrinking tiles, spinning tiles, dark matter, and bottomless pits. The last form is my personal favorite type of mission in the entire game, being an absolute throwback to the exploration-based collectathon style of the red coin and 100 coin missions of Super Mario 64. It feels somewhat refreshing to have the linear formula of the game shaken up and to be able to just run around a stage and find each little nook and cranny that the coins might be hidden in. Some of these missions take you to parts of stages that you may have otherwise forgotten or not known existed, like the top of the mountain in Honey Hive or the pillars you jump to from the mountain in Freeze Flame. Generally just a lot of mountains. The Freeze Flame Purple Coin mission is my favorite mission in the entire game. After collecting enough stars, the player can speak to Rosalina, who will ask if you want to fly to the center of the universe to rescue Princess Peach. If you say yes, Rosalina whips out some cosmic magic and spins up the observatory to blast into the stars in visually stunning fashion. It's cool how the observatory is just invincible and absolutely demolishes Bowser's airships when it flies past. It makes sense that Bowser would be attracted to stealing the energy Rosalina's ship contains. Also, Mario running toward the castle door implies that the entire final stage, including the literal center of the universe, is contained within Peach's castle, which is pretty neat. So, now it's finally time to talk about Bowser's Galaxy Reactor, the finale stage of Super Mario Galaxy, ending in the final fight against Bowser. The stage contains a quick gauntlet of features from various galaxies throughout the game, from lava to ice to sand to space junk. Personally, I find it disappointingly short, and I wish more gimmicks from throughout the game were brought back, but it's definitely a good level regardless. It's good that it gets its own music too, which makes it feel special compared to the other Bowser stages, even if gameplay-wise it's a little underwhelming. The Bowser fight at the end, fortunately, has a few added sections before it falls back to the spinning mechanic from the previous Bowser fights, and it's not like most final Bowser fights in Mario games haven't been underwhelming to begin with. I'm not gonna lie, having Bowser spin around wildly on his back and turn into a ball and roll around does begin to feel excessively goofy in a finale that otherwise takes itself completely seriously, but I guess it should be somewhat expected from a Mario game. Regardless, the Bowser fight can be quickly forgotten in favor of the absolute fever dream that is the ending of this game. The Grand Star received from beating Bowser flies Mario and Peach to relative safety while Bowser's Galaxy Reactor implodes, causing the star it's sitting on to go supernova and collapse into a black hole. We can give Nintendo a little leeway on the timescale here. Mario, Peach, and Peach's castle all get sucked toward the impending doom, with pieces of debris from Bowser's fleet flying past them. Mario and Peach get separated, and the castle starts tearing to pieces. In the midst of all this, the Luma who's been with Mario for his whole journey appears in front of him, giving one final squeal before diving headfirst into the void. Other Lumas follow suit. During this, the lullaby music from the Observatory Library's storybook plays, making the whole scene incredibly tragic. It's as if the Lumas know that this is the end, so they celebrate what was before the annihilation. It's hard for me to get through this scene without tearing up a bit. Since Bowser's reactor was at the center of the universe, I think we're meant to interpret this as the universe itself ending and then being reborn with some truly psychedelic CG imagery to boot. I actually kind of like how dated the CG looks here. Sure, a more realistic rendition might look more spectacular, but it wouldn't have the same feeling. This is an artist's rendition of the end of the universe, processed through their own thoughts and emotions, and it's simply beautiful to watch. It makes me nostalgic for reading books about space as a kid, back when many of these things simply couldn't be rendered, so an artist had to draw them instead. After a blinding flash of light, Mario appears floating in a heavenly void with Rosalina in front of him, now dozens of feet tall. The sound of a baby crying can be heard in the background, which is slightly unnerving as Rosalina explains that those are the voices of baby stars. For the whole game, Rosalina has been humanizing the cosmos, and this scene really brings it home with one of the most human experiences. How can you not feel for those stars when you hear how they sound just like us when we were born? Pitiful and helpless, yet full of potential. Rosalina explains that this cycle of cosmic life has happened before and will happen again, and that each time things are reborn in a new way. With this, she vanishes back into the void and the screen goes white.
Oh. Oh.
Yes.
Mario and friends awaken back in the starting town, and as Rosalina speaks a final line about creation and new life, Mario welcomes in the new world, and the camera pans out into space to reveal his world situated among many planets from throughout the game. This scene is a little bit more funny than I think it was intended to be, simply because of Mario's after Rosalina's line, as if he instantly and completely understands what her cryptic poetry means. It's also just kind of weird to see a normal looking planet next to all of these goofy planets from throughout the game. Aside from those things, I would consider this a pretty perfect ending, maybe one of the best endings of any game I've ever played. It's so crazy and out there, yet somehow caps this game off so perfectly. The Mario game that shouldn't work with the weird avant-garde ending that's completely out of left field. It's amazing. It only works as well as it does because of the narrative and environmental world building Nintendo has been doing throughout the whole game. We're invested in the Lumas, the bees, the penguins, the robots, and we think of them when we see this finale take place. We're invested in this dying universe. This ending leaves you dumbfounded, thinking. It introduces just enough new uncertainty that you can't help but think about it for days upon finishing it. It leaves you wanting more, wanting some answers, but not so much more that it feels rushed or unfinished. It's the perfect ending for a game that's as close to perfect as a game can realistically get. With the nitty-gritty individual elements covered, I'd like to close this video by laying out my thoughts on the game as a whole. Going back and doing a 100% playthrough of Mario Galaxy was super nostalgic and, for the most part, an enjoyable experience. It did, however, become increasingly frustrating to complete entirely. With the difficulty of later stages like Dreadnought Galaxy, and especially some of the harder Purple Coin missions, I started to realize just how much of a hindrance the motion controls could be, specifically for things like timing the spin attack properly or correcting a jump in time to not fall off a cliff. I also became increasingly annoyed by just how much control you lose when Mario takes damage. The amount of times Mario slides off an edge or gets stuck taking damage in a corner was way higher than I remembered. In terms of pure progression towards 120 stars, 100%ing began to feel like a chore after a while. There really is something to be said for Mario Odyssey's decision to not kick you out of the stage and back to a hub world every time you find a moon, and I think Galaxy in particular, and maybe Sunshine, but I haven't played it in a long time, could greatly benefit from such a system. Once you're up in the 90s to hundreds of stars, the fatigue of returning to the same level over and over to traverse through a mildly different stage layout just to get to the actual variety in the boss fight or final platforming challenge really starts to set in. It would be far more satisfying to be able to explore each planetoid at your own pace to find each star. With that said, Odyssey's main weakness was its somewhat uninspired platforming challenges, which is certainly not true of Galaxy. It's a balance, but I think Galaxy leans a little too far in the linear direction. The way comets work is another issue I had. For whatever reason, the devs made it so Comet Missions appear at random, not only preventing you from choosing which Comet mission you want to do, but also preventing you from playing any other mission on that stage until you either play the comet, pay Illuma 50 starbits to move all comets, or just wait for it to leave by playing missions in other stages. This one is particularly baffling because there are so many easy ways to fix it. Make it so you can play other missions while the comet is there, or get rid of comets and just make them normal missions, or even have some predictable pattern in how the comets appear. Bonus points if the player can somehow manipulate it. I was going to talk about padding for my final issue with Mario Galaxy, but upon further thought I'm left somewhat conflicted. From a 100% playthrough standpoint, there were absolutely stages that I felt were a waste of time, like Big Mouth Galaxy or Bonefin Galaxy. However, I think that for the average player who probably won't collect much more than the 70 stars required to access the finale, these weird one-off side levels are a key factor in why Galaxy is so damn memorable. Sure, they sort of blend together with the larger, more impressive stages, as evidenced by the fact that I straight up didn't remember many of them, but I really do think that just having them there adds to the overwhelming sense of adventure that Galaxy has. But something still felt off to me, and I think it may be an issue of pacing. Collecting all 120 stars feels a little anticlimactic. The best the game can offer is having you play through the finale again, thus unlocking Luigi as a playable character. I've never finished Sunshine, so maybe a grand finale style level or challenge just wasn't a tradition in 3D Mario at this point, since it definitely wasn't a thing in 64. Going forward though, Galaxy 2, 3D World, and Mario Odyssey have all had this type of bonus or second finale stage or stages to play through, and it's been pretty consistently present in 2D Mario since Super Mario World's Special Zone. And yes, I know that Galaxy 1 has its own grand finale galaxy, but having the player 100% the game for a second time as Luigi just for the privilege of playing a purple coin mission in Toad Town is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. At the very least, these small side galaxies gave me a new appreciation for just how much artistic effort went into even the most insignificant elements of the game. The fact that many of these stages got original music is a testament to that as well. And even if some side content is a little mechanically lacking at times, my praise of Galaxy was never centered on its mechanics, but rather its atmosphere and progression, both of which are helped rather than hindered by all the side content. What Super Mario Galaxy really deserves the most credit for is its utter uniqueness compared to other games, other 3D platformers, and even every other 3D Mario game. It's honestly remarkable that not only did the gravity mechanic make it past simply being a neat tech demo, but Nintendo managed to craft an entire game around it without it ever feeling like a gimmick or an afterthought. The gravity of Mario Galaxy is so expertly intertwined with the level design that you rarely ever even think about it while you're playing, it just becomes second nature. Only when it goes wrong are you jarringly reminded that it's not the least bit realistic and, especially in the later stages, would be seen as completely nonsensical to someone who'd never played the game before. One final aspect I haven't really reconciled with is the inclusion of Rosalina's storybook in the observatory library. It's just so unexpected and really sad too. Surprisingly sad for a Mario game. The whole game, in fact, has a slight overtone of sadness, which Jacob Geller has an excellent video on. There's just something about this storybook, though, that gets to me. Whether it be the watercolor style, the music, the story itself, or some combination of the three, I nearly start tearing up every time I read it, which rarely happens to me. There must be some greater significance to this story that I haven't fully grasped yet. To the game as a whole, in fact. There's just not really a perceivable reason as to why this game in particular has such a different feeling than any other Mario game to come before or after it. Maybe the lead developer or game director had some personal experience or vision that he wove into the game, in a rare occasion analogous to the film industry when auteur-like figures are granted access to producing large blockbusters, like Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve. Or maybe the Mario team at Nintendo all came together in just the right way at this specific moment in time, and this genuinely special game was the outcome. Whatever the circumstances of its production, I don't feel I've come out of this experience with a radically different opinion of the game, if even a different opinion at all. I simply understand my feelings toward it with far more depth and completeness. I absolutely still hold it as one of my favorite games of all time, and have greatly increased my appreciation for both its artistic and technical mastery. I also see its problems and limitations more clearly, but those will be present in any game, so I don't fault Galaxy in particular. It's a game punching far above its weight in terms of pure artistry and theming, and for the most part retains the mechanical chops of the Mario franchise as well. Apparently, Nintendo was quite fond of Galaxy as well, as they immediately set out to create a successor in Galaxy 2. Making it not only the only 3D Mario game to receive a direct sequel, but one of the only Mario games ever to receive one. I'll save talking about that for the next video though, where I'll set out to answer the question, which Mario Galaxy is better? Until then, thanks for watching. So, if you've made it this far, thank you so much once again for watching. I've been slowly working on this video for quite a long time at this point, and it feels amazing to finally be able to put it out there and have people watch it. I want to give a huge shout out to Jasper RLZ, the main developer behind noclip.website, which is the website I used to film all of the cinematics you saw in this video. He also has a YouTube channel just called Jasper, where he talks about technology mainly from GameCube and Wii games, including Super Mario Galaxy, and they're super in-depth and technical and really interesting to listen to. So if you're at all interested in video game graphics and how they work, especially older games, again, I highly recommend. So, looking back on this video, I think it's safe to say I've kind of reached the point in a project where I don't really like the thing that I'm making anymore, and I'm sure anyone who has ever made anything knows what I'm talking about, but just in general, I feel like the beginning of the video is a lot worse than the end of the video, which makes sense because I got better at making the video as I went, but overall, I feel like a lot of the interesting stuff I say is kind of loaded into the back of the video, which is not great for a video that's over an hour long that most people aren't going to watch the whole thing, but lessons learned for the next video, it's safe to say, which I am planning to do Mario Galaxy 2. I know, or I'm pretty sure that game has a lot more levels than Galaxy 1 does, and there's like fewer missions per level, so it will probably not be the same format whatsoever, and I also have to do a lot more comparison between the two games, which just already makes it a very different video. Hopefully I can get that video out faster than this one now that I sort of know what I'm doing, but yeah, other than that, I stream on Twitch sometimes, twitch.tv/poke_bd. Follow me on Twitter, same poke_bd. And yeah, thank you so much once again for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.